our very own mullah, our ayatollah, our very own shah, our very own monarch, the great, glorious golden boy, Donald Trump.
The great white hope
is doing the damn thing again. Last night, his Gestapo forces shot someone once again in Minneapolis. And of course, people were very frustrated by this because there's already a lot of protests that are taking place. And Burger-tola, Burger Shah, all of that, our burger monarch, he's very frustrated. And he said he's going to throw in the Insurrection Act. He's going to invoke the Insurrection Act. What does that mean? Let's take a look. CNN will explain now.
Is now making a new and serious threat after protests in Minneapolis grew even.
Like, I can't understand how you go from Iranian people, rise up against your masters, you have nothing to lose but your chains, throw Molotov cocktails at the police, to like the next day be like, I will use the military to kill you dead if you rise up against me. I will use the military to kill you dead.
Joining us now, Andrew McCabe, the CNN senior law enforcement analyst and former deputy director of the FBI. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us. Last night, as you know, Minneapolis saw yet a new wave of very disturbing protests and clashes with police. 1 week ago was the ICE shooting death of Renee Good, and now the president is threatening to invoke what's called the Insurrection Act. 5 years ago, Minneapolis was rocked by violent protests after the police murder of George Floyd. Andy, is Minneapolis sitting on a powder keg right now?
Absolutely, they are, Wolf. And I think you saw that very clearly last night. I think the chaos, the escalation in violence, the overly tactical.
I think you guys are forgetting when Waltz said he was going to call the National Guard. He literally said he was going to call the National Guard because he was worried the protesters would get out of hand. He never said he was going to call the National Guard to defend the citizens.
The way that law enforcement responded to that assemblage of protesters, they're all very obviously related to the fact that the law enforcement team on the ground having to deal with this situation is not one that is trained for or equipped for or experienced in dealing with large crowd control. These are federal agents. They're not police officers. There's not as many of them as you would need to handle a large crowd. Think about the way that we've seen effective law enforcement responses to large crowds, large protests, whether they be over the George Floyd death or whatever. You typically see a massive number of police officers in riot gear, not carrying shoulder-fired weapons, but rather carrying shields and sometimes batons, less than lethal weapons. And they basically move together in a very systematic.
Can't believe a cop has to correct Wolf Blitzer that ICE are not law enforcement. Yeah, because Wolf Blitzer is a agent of the regime, just as Asmongold is. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are all just repeating whatever the regime is saying. The Trump regime says jump, they say how high.
I really think this might be the most based post he's ever made.
That's the automatic position of all mainstream media. And it's also increasingly become the automatic position of many people who are doing regime media independently. And like, liberal media has no other speed. They will defend the status quo. Or even if they are like critical of what's going on, they'll still do it in a way that is like normalizing. That's why I sometimes joke and say like, sometimes I'll joke and like cover what's happening in America in the same way that like CNN would cover what's happening in Iran, right? And if you were to do that, if you were to even it out, you would understand how ruthless and how cruel the Trump regime has been. It's just that they don't do that. Their job is to normalize the violence at the domestic level coming from the state and overemphasize the violence taking place in other states, especially foreign adversary states.
Way to regain territory and disperse the protesters. Right now, you have a much smaller force, totally focused on a tactical response. Half of them are carrying M4s and other very heavy shoulder-fired weapons, rifles. This is a powder keg, and last night you saw it just about go off.
Yeah,
It's just not good all around, right? And now you have the president threatening this morning to invoke what's called the Insurrection Act. He said, quote, if the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act. Let's remind everyone of what the Insurrection Act is. It allows the president to deploy the U.S. military domestically and use that force against citizens. It can only be employed if there's an insurrection or interference with state or federal law. So, Andy, as a former deputy director of the
For the record, I just want to say something. I know a lot of people misunderstood my point that I was making before, but this is precisely what I was talking about when I was saying that, like, this is, you know, what the Trump administration's goals here are to basically keep up the intensity in this pressure cooker scenario, so much so that, like, eventually someone takes matters in their own hands in an act of self-defense, you know, and then they do this, and then martial law, right? Because this is the one step. The Insurrection Act is basically a de facto martial law in the area that they're operating, but eventually it'll turn into a full-blown martial law around the country when other states also get mad and they start protesting, they start pushing for it. That's where we're at. I wasn't saying that because I was like, oh, you should stop resisting or you should stop protesting or anything like that, which is how some charlatans read what I was saying. But I said, it's clear to me that the goal here is to keep escalating until something gives and people push back and then use that as a means to implement martial law and engage in mass repression. Minnesota is a testing ground. But this is what I was talking about. You know, cancel the elections. Sorry, we have martial law. Nothing you can do about it. I think that's what the game plan is. That's why I've been saying over and over again that these guys are moving like they don't care that there is going to ever be another election. The Trump administration, the Trump regime is moving like they don't care that there is going to be another election ever again. This is what I mean.
FBI and acting director, do you see any grounds to legitimize the use of the Insurrection Act here?
No, absolutely not. I think there's a lot of indicators on the ground that point towards the need for a much better and very different law enforcement response. This is, you know, we have had, unfortunately, violent protests in this country for a number of
like low key, not to get like Maoist third worldist up in this bitch, but if America was too busy having like its own military engage in domestic repression, this could present an opportunity for every other third world nation to do a bank run in American military bases that will remain unoccupied at that point. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. If you're deploying the American military on American soil against American citizens and there's mass chaos and mass discontent, you got 800 military bases around the world that are looking like prime real estate with a ton of weapons. That's all I'm saying. Perhaps this is something that the American government should take into consideration before they move in this weird reactionary way. Dude, it's like, hold on. What is it? I want everyone in New York. It's like this. Hold on. It's like,
if you're near a convenience store right now, any type of 24-hour store, go into the store right now and put your hand in the cash register for no reason. Their money is your money as of right now. Somebody just pushed their album back. I don't know who. Push it back. If you're near a convenience store right now.
If you're near a forward operating base right now, I want everyone to hear me in the third world. If you are near a forward operating base right now, any type of American military base, go to the base right now, put your hand in the ammunition, put your hand in the armory and grab whatever rifle you can. It's free real estate. Funk finally retired, bro. Was the OG sound effect merchant? Yeah. You will figure it out. Throw on a YouTube video. Figure out how to drive one of those Abrams tanks. It's yours now. It's free. Those rifles are yours. Those guns are your guns now. That Abrams tank is yours. All you need is a YouTube video to figure out how to drive one of those motherfuckers. Or find the most autistic guy in your village. He probably plays War Thunder. He already knows how to drive the Abrams tank. It's a fire sale. He got that downloaded.
Different reasons, different issues over the last couple of years. And in not one of them has any other president declared to bring in the United States military to take over a city under the Insurrection Act. What you have here is the government, unlike the response to George Floyd, this is an issue in which the government could very quickly de-escalate the tension and the violence on the ground simply by conducting their business differently, right? By pulling back some of these ICE officers, by bringing a less aggressive tactical approach to this entire issue of finding people who are illegally here in this country. That's why there's violence.
Like, you can't tell me this is normal, man. What the are we doing? Here. Also, hold on.
How do I start an F-16? The question's real. I stole an F-16. Flip the master, all the lights begin to feel. I stole an F-16. Set the fuel pump, start the number 2. I stole an F-16. Engines whining as the turbines chew. I stole an F-16. Turn the RER power on right. I stole an F-16. Horizon centered, the line set right. I stole an F-16. Oh, watch the gauges and the needles climb. I stole an F-16. Wait till 20, it will take its time. I stole an F-16.
A lot of manuals out there, I'm just saying. All I'm saying is there's opportunity everywhere, okay? There's opportunity everywhere. We'll be tanking. We'll be tanking the damage. We'll be tanking the brunt force of the American military, American empire crumbling from within. But if Donald Trump tries to do some shit, tries to do some martial law shit, brings all the troops back to U.S. soil so we can dominate everywhere from California to New York, all of those bases are going to be unoccupied. They do not have the time and the supply chains to basically take all of those weapons and bring them back to U.S. soil. They're not going to do that. They normally don't do that anyway. They melt it, right? Famously, they melt it because it's way less costly to just, destroy the stuff on the bases rather than try to ship them back. I mean, it's basically scrap metal at that point. Who gives a right? I'm just saying. I mean, look at the Taliban. We armed them to the fucking teeth. We armed them to the teeth when they were fighting the USSR, and then we armed them once again when we left. We were there so long, everything got outdated. That's what, outdated for us doesn't mean outdated for the Taliban, They're very industrious people. They're enterprising young individuals. They know how to use all of those weapons. They can put those weapons to good use. I'm just careful. This clip will say that this and you'll conspire against the U.S. No, I'm just saying, maybe Donald Trump shouldn't do martial law in the United States of America if he doesn't want the rest of the world to decide, oh, these are my weapons now.
Under any circumstances.
Also, this is called a joke.
Is not. But it is the government that's ratcheting up the tension and the violence here, and they could easily turn that off by simply conducting themselves differently.
Just really quickly to follow up, I mean, you had the situation with the shooting overnight, and DHS says that a Venezuelan national tried to flee and attacked the ICE officer trying to arrest him. I mean, in that situation, do you think a shooting was justified? In that case, he was shot in the leg, that Venezuelan national.
Well, it's very hard to say, Pamela, because we know almost nothing about this. And the reason is that the government's response, their comments in the media following the Renee Good shooting 1 week ago have proven to us all that we cannot take their statements for granted. We cannot accept what the government is telling us whole cloth. They have no credibility in terms of the way that they are talking about and characterizing the people involved in these events. They absolutely deliberately mischaracterized Ms. Good and her partner as terrorists. They are not terrorists. They didn't commit any act of terrorism. They haven't been alleged to have committed a crime with an indictment or anything like that. So we know that we can't trust what the government is saying about what's happening on the ground. So now you think about what happened last night, and we essentially know nothing at this point. So it's really hard to evaluate that.
We're waiting to hear from the Minnesota officials to get some more details, because right now we only have the DHS side of things.
All right, Andrew McCabe, as usual, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Joining me now is Robin Wansley, a Democrat on the Minneapolis City Council. I want to start with this. The president has just amped things up, saying he is threatening to use the Insurrection Act if things do not calm down there in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. What is your response to that?
Yeah, so just first want to offer clarification. I am the city's first Black Democratic Socialist city council member, minority leader. In terms of Trump threatening to use the Insurrection Act, I don't think any of us on the ground here are surprised. Essentially, what Trump has been inching to do since he first deployed ICE agents to Minneapolis about 6 weeks ago was really to build to this place where he can normalize using his administrative powers to go to war with local cities who do not fall in alignment with his administration's political goals, which is to divide.
Realize that like 80% of active duty uniformed military members are based in the U.S. Yeah, I mean, this is I need you to understand something. I'm joking. Like, this wasn't actually a sincere thing that I was saying, that people in Djibouti should go and storm the American military base. I don't think there's many people tuning in from the third world regardless into the HasanAbi broadcast. It's mostly just LARPers, okay? Like, I wasn't saying you can genuinely learn how to pilot an F-16 off of a TikTok AI music video.
I have a question for you on Minnesota and then also Venezuela.
Sure.
President Trump threatened invoking the Insurrection Act today in a Truth Social post. I'm wondering what his tipping point is. Like, what would it take for him to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Look, that's only a question, frankly, Reagan, the president can answer. But the Insurrection Act is a tool at the president's disposal. As you know, it has been used sparingly, but it has been used by previous presidents in American history. And I think the president's Truth Social post spoke very loud and clear to Democrats across this country, elected officials who are using their platforms to encourage violence against federal law enforcement officers, who are encouraging left-wing agitators to unlawfully obstruct legitimate law enforcement operations. And if you talk to any law enforcement officer, no matter what level they work at, they want to be working with their counterparts, whether that's at the federal level or the federal authorities wanting to work with their counterparts at the state and local level. And it's truly shameful that now for more than a year,
I hate that this is the most overtly, not like covertly authoritarian, but the most overtly authoritarian government we've had in quite a while. And they're also doing like bodies and spaces ass rhetoric, like words are violence ass rhetoric, standpoint epistemology, my white feelings are hurt, all this shit. It's like, how can you simultaneously be so whiny and so dictatorial at the same time? Like, it's the worst of both worlds. It's both cringe, it's so soy, but it's also so unimaginably reactionary and so violent at the same time.
You've had
it is very Israeli coded. Yes, it is. It is exactly what modern fascism looks like. We genuinely look to Israel to be like, okay, what are the next steps here? You know, over and over again, we just cry bully our way through everything.
Elected Democrat governors and mayors who have basically held their state and local law enforcement.
Is there a baby in the room? What the fuck's going on? Wait, what?
It's truly shameful that now with their counterparts at the state and local level. And it's truly shameful that now for more than a year, you've had elected Democrat governors and mayors who have basically held their state and
They just got Goo Goo Gaga in the press pool now? What the hell? Bro, these Republican influencers are getting younger and younger, dude. Nah, that's just Nick Shirley. He's there to ask a question. But mommy didn't give a binky yet, so he's acting out.
Local law enforcement hostage and told them, you cannot cooperate with federal law enforcement. Why? they cooperated under the Biden administration. It's because these Democrats are deranged in their hatred for President Trump, and they are holding their state and local law enforcement hostage as a result. And these Democrat mayors and governors are doing
It's her snack for later. Oh God. Oh brother.
this over
Just a little snack on the side, you know?
what? Over the lawful and legitimate law enforcement operations to remove violent criminals from the streets of Minnesota, from the streets of California, from the streets of New York, and from the streets of every state across this country. And you don't see these riots and this vandalism taking place in states like Florida. Why? Because you have a governor in that state who has empowered federal and local authorities to work together. And it's despicable what we're seeing from these Democrat politicians, especially in sanctuary states and cities across the country.
The argument is so boring. Is always deranged. Is TDS. Is the communism. Is this and this. Yeah. What communism? Where's the communism? Can we have a little bit of communism, please? It seems to me like the only thing that is like communism is what we have decided is what communists do over there. But we have decided to do it over here. Like all the negative aspects of what we associate with communism, we're literally doing here, even though it's not communism at all, with none of the benefits. Motherfuckers talk about bread lines. We got bread lines, and we still have to pay for it. At least when they had bread lines, the government was paying for the bread. It's crazy. Oh, look at these ugly city blocks. They're so gray. They're so ugly. Look at this brutalist architecture. Look at this government. Look at these government housing units. It's like, bitch, what's better? 1 million homeless people sleeping outside tonight, or those fucking government housing blocks? Give me the government housing blocks now. So there was another moment here where Donald Trump apparently told Reuters that he might cancel the midterms. Just kidding. So there was a question that was brought up in the press briefing this morning, and Caroline Leavitt responded in the way that you expect. Let's take a look. About the president's interview with Reuters. Yeah, he had an interview with the Reuters journalist, and he was like, maybe I just cancel the midterms. Unless nobody's going to stop me. Who's going to stop me? Are you going to stop me? Everyone's telling me elections are silly. Elections are silly. It's boring. It's woke. It's woke. So yeah, this guy follows up on it.
About the president's interview with Reuters, you said that he was joking about canceling the elections, but Americans for generations have fought and died for democracy, for this democracy. Are you saying that the president finds the idea of canceling elections funny?
Andrew, were you in the room? No, you weren't. I was in the room. I heard the conversation, and only someone like you would take that so seriously and pose it as a question in that way.
Yeah, dude. Just like when President Trump, when he was, campaigning to become president, was like, Project 2025, don't know what that is. Never read it. Don't like reading. Don't know how to read. I'm illiterate, folks. What do you mean, Project 2025? What the fuck is that?
I purposely didn't even want to see it. Because when somebody like you asks me a question about Project 2025, I can honestly say I've never seen it. I have nothing to do with it. I didn't read it.
And then a couple months in, he's like, actually, I love Project 2025. And also, I've been implementing it every step of the way. And also, here's the architect of Project 2025. I am going to send him as a threat during this government shutdown to blue states and f your lives up. Yeah, remember when he was just joking? Or when he was just joking, I guess, when he was talking about mass deportations taking place?
Starting on day one, I will seal the border and stop the migrant invasion into our country. We will begin the largest deportation operation in the history of the United States. Dwight Eisenhower right now has that record.
He wasn't joking. He was being serious. He doesn't joke. When he makes these sorts of jokes, it's not actually a joke. We can't be going, haha, he's just joking, right? Like when he says, like, I'm gonna take Greenland by force, because I also made the mistake of thinking, well, that's just insane. That's not gonna happen. But it turns out he very much intends to do so. And it kind of feels like no one can stop him. So let's just stop with this, like, oh, I'm just joking. He's not testing out his comedy material, okay? He's testing out his policy material. That's what he's doing when he's just joking. Like, we have the president threatening to sic the American military on people in Minneapolis, Minnesota today, while simultaneously saying maybe we canceled the elections with martial law. That's not a joke. That's just what he's saying he's going to do. White House press secretary calls reporter left-wing hack.
Thanks, Caroline. Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents generally, and earlier on, Secretary Noem spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly.
To be fair, this guy is a left-wing hack, okay?
2 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 U.S. citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking?
They let him in because he said he was an Irish Republican, and they thought it meant the same thing in America. They didn't realize it means something different over there.
My opinion, because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Dude, fuck you, dude. God damn, dude. What the oh my God. They got nothing up there, man. They got nothing. It's just worms for brains. These people have it's like a tin can up there with quarters just hitting both sides of an otherwise empty brain, empty skull.
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist, and it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised and your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals. And
yeah, the heinous individual happens to be your barback or your landscaper or your neighbor. Like half the time, not even half the time with more than half the time with no criminal record whatsoever. Just a guy trying to make ends meet, guy with a family of American-born U.S. citizen children. Everybody understands that at this point. It's only like the smallest minority of psychopaths that look at that and go, this is what I voted for. I mean, the mother of this person's niece was apprehended and detained and I think slated to be deported by ICE. Caroline Leavitt. So she has skin in the game. But because she is such a regime-pilled dickhead, she can't even see the humanity of her own immediate relatives. Lest we forget. It's so crazy. What are we doing? You cannot win elections on the Asmongold based constituency. You just can't do that.